Well, it's here. The Super Mario Brothers movie. Something I've been disproportionately excited about for years. Saw it last night, and I was tired enough that I had to sleep on it before I did a review. Because I'm old now, and sleep is everything to me. Time, it makes fools of us all. So is it good? Are critics being too critical? Our general audience is just being a little too forgiving? Is it as bad as the one from the 90s? Is Birdo in it? Listen. Right out of the gate, let me just say, critics are being entirely too harsh on this film. There's some really weird hot takes and just, well, let's just be honest, elitist snobbery going on. All because this movie is, not Citizen Kane 2. And audiences seem to sincerely be into it because there's a lot to sincerely love here. These are, of course, a lot of the same people who keep convincing Paramount to keep making Transformers movies, but I'm not going to get into that right now. But if I'm being honest, I'm somewhere in the middle. To be clear, I liked it. I had fun. It was worth a watch. But as I do, I got a tiny bit overhyped. It wasn't the Lego movie, and that's not entirely fair because most everything is not the Lego movie. It did have a sequel, though. And Lego Batman was pretty good, too. Focus, Brent. Big takeaway here. It's a kids' movie. It's an Illumination movie. It's Nintendo's first film in decades, so they're playing it safe and they're making a lot of non-risky decisions with it. Take that how you will. So, things I liked first. It's an obvious love letter to the franchise and the games. There's a lot of reverence and attention to detail, and every attempt is made to be as faithful as they possibly can and to celebrate as much as they can from the games. So many references. So many Easter eggs. It's funny. Sometimes it's hilarious. Don't expect anything highbrow, but there are these occasional moments of wit that I wish there were more of. There are moments where the movie chooses weirdly to go hard. Like, it doesn't shy away from people being threatened with murder, for example. People get punched and scratched and thrown around and genuinely hurt more than I see in most kids' movies these days. There are moments of, genuine maliciousness and peril that kind of sneak their way in, and I kind of loved it. It's also effing gorgeous. Hands down, the most beautiful movie Illumination has ever done. Felt almost like a Pixar movie. Seeing that world rendered on the big screen, almost worth the movie ticket. The music is great. Hearing the classic tunes from the games gave me goosebumps. It was weird, the occasional 80s song sort of slipping its way in, but that's Illumination, and my wife actually loved that. And believe it or not, the voice acting's not bad. Chris Pratt is fine as Mario. I adjusted very quickly. I expected to be bothered by it, and it's not bad at all. And his arc, it's kind of bare, but it's actually kind of nice. Charlie Day is great as Luigi. There's just not enough of him. So let's see him more in the sequel, please, and get a Luigi's Mansion movie going, please. Their whole dynamic as brothers, heart of the movie. I wish there was more of it. It's kind of on the nose sometimes, but it still managed to tug my heartstrings a little bit. Kevin Michael Richardson, like a voice acting god, is in this movie. He has a small role as Kamek, and while it's tiny and he doesn't really do much, and he's kind of aping Peter Lorre the whole time, he's great. I'm maybe a tiny bit biased here. Jack Black, though. Wow. Phenomenal as Bowser. That sounds overblown, but I'm telling the truth. The man was made for the role. He steals the movie every single time. Although it's hard to kind of go into why without getting kind of spoilery. Let's just say there are moments where he's genuinely menacing, but then when they get to the heart of his motivation and why he's doing what he's doing, it's hysterical. It grounds him a little bit, and it's even a little poignant. There's a thing he says at the ending that actually is really, really sad, if you can catch it. But Seth Rogen is DK. DK is Seth Rogen. I actually really like what they did with DK, and I'm actually pretty into the idea of a DK movie. But it's really hard to see past the fact that Rogen just kind of does what he always does. It just feels the tiniest bit lazy. Anya Taylor-Joy is a great actress. I know this, you know this. There's just not a lot of that on display for Peach, sadly. There are a couple times where she gets to do the rendition of Peach's lines from the games, and they are just okay. And Peach is a big part of the movie. It just really feels like a missed opportunity. I love Keegan-Michael Key. I was so happy when I found out that he was cast as Toad. I thought that was the most brilliant choice. And he's just kind of a joke machine. And the jokes aren't even that great. I was pretty sad about that. Fred Armisen's Cranky Kong, which I was also weirdly really looking forward to. It's kind of a spin on the judgmental Jewish father stereotype, I guess, and it feels a little in poor taste and canned. My wife called it generic, and I honestly can't disagree with her. But my single biggest problem of all, the pacing. And this one is going to be a little difficult for me to explain, so just bear with me for a minute. I know this is a kids' movie. Kids' movies are supposed to move at a fast clip. That's not what I'm talking about. It's the way the scenes in the movie are structured. I couldn't put my finger on it till about halfway through the movie. I realized that the way these scenes were written were actually reminding me of something from a video game. Weirdly, not a Mario game. Has anyone played Ratchet and Clank or Jak and Daxter? You remember the cutscenes from those games? They're small, they're compact. Their whole point is to move you from one bit of gameplay to the next. There's some exposition, there's some humor, and then it's done. It's all transitional, and it all takes place in like a few minutes, maybe a few seconds. It's not like scenes in a movie which are kind of allowed to play out and develop, even marinate, so that sometimes you can get some interesting character moments or something. Those cutscenes were more like, you're microdosing a movie. That's what the Super Mario Brothers movie kind of feels like. It feels like a long line of continuous cutscenes, except there's no gameplay in between. It's all transition. The vignettes aren't just allowed to fully blossom, I guess. And I'm willing to bet that has something to do with Shigeru Miyamoto, the creator of Mario. The guy was entrenched in the making of this movie, as he should have been. He didn't want to make the same mistake Nintendo did in the 90s with the first movie. And as the character's creator, I would personally want him to be shepherding things. But the man is known for his gameplay first, story second mentality. Some people translate that out to the man hates story. And sadly, there's precedent for that. Sometimes his underlings would have to sneak in story bits into his games just to punch it up a little, without his permission. And don't get me started on the Paper Mario drama. I have no proof of this, but it wouldn't surprise me. It just made the movie kind of feel weird sometimes, like the scenes would end before they needed to. Even if they'd lasted like a few more seconds, that might have been enough to even elevate the movie to great. I think it's more apparent in the second act than anything. The first act starts pretty strong, and the third act ends pretty strong by comparison, but there's some slump and weirdness going on in the middle. Anyway, the Super Mario Brothers movie is a fun time. It's not going to win an Oscar, not for story anyway, but it's worth the ticket. It's my sincere hope we see more sequels to this movie and more spin-offs and entries into this Nintendo Cinematic Universe or whatever the hell they're trying to do. Just when they do, I hope they feel confident enough at that point to punch up the story a little bit. And if they don't, that's fine. But critics need to stop, punishing it. They need to calm the hell down. Maybe, I don't know, play a video game or something. Just an idea.